What's up? I'm B, and whether you're watching this on YouTube or you were listening to the podcast, I hope you are having an amazing day today. Were you hoping to have 2 new videos from me 2 weeks in a row? Because if so, you got it. We're here again. We're going to do another reaction. This is like my catch-up tour. I have been loosely keeping up with things in the Fundiverse over the past, year. My son turns 11 months today, so over the past year when I haven't really been consistently making content, I've been keeping an eye on things, but I have not been as deeply involved as I have been in the past. And so now is my time, I feel like, to really kind of catch up on all of the things that I missed when I was doing other things. And today we are going to be reacting to a MILENA CICIOTTI video. This video, it's called like a juicy QMA. Juicy Q&A, intimacy, our last baby, how to rebuke others, and more. And if I am not mistaken, this video caused quite a bit of uproar. MILENA got quite a bit of negative feedback, and she even addressed this on her Instagram story. I can't find the Reddit post. I will keep looking for it, but in the meantime, MILENA did pin a comment on this video where she says, "Sisters, I hear and have taken your rebukes and corrections to heart. Thank you. May the Lord give me wisdom to speak with grace and the Holy Spirit correct me in my foolishness. I have a few concerns I'd like to address below." And it's a really long comment going over a couple of different things, but since we haven't watched the video, I don't know how relevant the additional information is to our purposes here. But the very first one says, "I owe an apology to the mother asking for wisdom on navigating sex after having children. My response came with preconceived ideas that may not have been entirely true for her situation, mainly being that her and her husband were in the roommate stage of marriage, aka the sexless stage of marriage. My desire with bringing up frequency was to shoot at the ideal. The ideal that we should all strive for is more intimacy with our spouses. Does that mean we always do the ideal? No, but that doesn't change the ideal. Scripture is very clear in regards to what a healthy marriage should look like, and infrequent sex is not healthy and gives Satan a stronghold." And then she lists a few verses related to this and says, "In the past, when I have asked for wisdom in this area from older women at my church, having a specific goal/number to shoot at was super helpful to me. Not because I saw it as something to check off, but something I desired to make a priority. Having an ideal number to shoot for I really wish you would stop using the word shoot in the context of sex. Having an ideal number to shoot for on a weekly basis personally was super helpful. I placed my personal preference on this mother when it wasn't necessary. I'd like to apologize for placing a specific number when it wasn't necessary or biblical, but rather a preference from previous experience when seeking counsel. Sometimes speaking in generalities isn't always helpful, but I've learned that speaking in specifics sometimes may not be either. I am praying for discernment in the future on when/if to use specifics." So we're going to obviously get into the video and see what it is that she's addressing, but it does sound like she said something in this video that she really might not stand by now, based on this specific comment. And I do just wonder if at a certain point, it's like, well, maybe we take the video down. If you're, because this comment goes on for 2, 3, 4, 3 more points of addressing certain things. And so it's like, maybe we take it down, we try again, we say, hey, I'm not happy with how that video ended up coming across or the way that what I said made people feel. I'd like to try again. And I'd also like to give you this additional information regarding their previous home, the fundraising that they did last year, and why she is and isn't sharing certain things about her life anymore. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and do one for the week, and then let's get into the reaction so we can actually understand what's going on with this updated pinned comment. So If you are new around here, a win for the week is where you share something positive that happened to you over the past week that you would consider a win, big or small, whatever it may be. If it made you feel grateful, if it brought you joy, if it made you happy, if you consider it a win, I want to hear about it and celebrate with you. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the comment section for this particular episode. My personal win for the week was trying out a delicious recipe for the first time and having it just turn out so good and so yummy. I saw it on TikTok, and it's an Ina Garten recipe, and it's like chicken in a cast iron skillet with a creamy mustard sauce, and you have to use creme fraiche in the recipe. Y'all know I don't do that. I can't have that creme fraiche, and so I found a vegan recipe for creme fraiche, used it in the Ina Garten recipe, and it was so good. It was so delicious. It turned out amazing. I love cooking and baking and being in the kitchen and just trying out new recipes. I love home cooked food. If you've been here for a long time, you know that. And so trying something new and having fun exploring different recipes was such a great time. That is my win for the week, and I cannot wait to hear yours and celebrate with you. Now, let's get into the reaction.
Good morning. Welcome back. I'm doing a little Q&A this morning in my kid's playroom / homeschool room because it's the quietest little spot in the house and my home is still sleeping. And so this is how I can get things done. So I have a couple questions here. First, how do you respond to Christian women that complain about their husbands and kids? And this is something that I have been rebuked in myself. And so I have taken how someone has done it to me to now.
Oh, we're just jumping right in. In my head, I thought she was going to be doing that thing of like taking a couple of different clips from later on in the video, putting them together at the beginning. I don't know what that's called, but like kind of hooking you in of this is what's to come. We're jumping right in. Okay. Women complaining about spouses and children.
How I will do it to someone else. And it's not, when I say rebuke, it's not like I'm over here like, stop that. It is more so because most of the time I feel like people don't realize this is what they are doing. And so I had, for example, I had a friend who was over and she had a toddler that was very clingy. And she just kept complaining about how like she couldn't have a conversation with me and how anytime she tried to leave the room or like it was just, I could tell she was just getting really frustrated by the clinginess of her daughter. And what I said was to my children and my daughter was, isn't it so beautiful how much her daughter loves her that when she leaves the room for even a second, her daughter notices. Her daughter finds so much love and safety in her mother that she can notice it immediately when she's gone. And what a beautiful bond and love she has for her mother. And so I wasn't even necessarily saying it to the mother. I wasn't even like, I think I was just shining this in a light in a different perspective in a different way. And literally like 6 months later, she told me that changed her life. And I didn't even mean for it to be a rebuke or a correction. I was just expressing what I was witnessing. And in my eyes, I really did see it as a toddler who was genuinely so in love with her mother and found so much comfort in her mother that she noticed within seconds that her mother was gone. And I thought it was so beautiful. And so I was just like stating a fact or like just stating something that I had noticed. But in the midst of that, she completely changed the way that she was viewing that because she was seeing it in a negative light. And so I think we really have to pray and discern.
Okay, so if this had a positive impact on that mom, amazing. What I hear if I'm in the midst of a conversation with you and I'm like, wow, I really just wish that like you and I could have this conversation without my child being so clingy or distracting. I'm really feeling kind of frustrated. And you turn to your kids and you say, isn't it beautiful how much this baby loves their mom? And give this whole speech about it. I'm going to start feeling like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. And I guess that's the idea is Milena's saying, you know, it's a gentle rebuke that I didn't realize that I was doing. And I do think that framing things is important, and I don't know, finding the positive things in things that might not seem ideal at the time, I guess, is important. And yeah, it's so amazing to be the safe space for your child and to be the one that your child wants to be around and finds comfort in. And of course, like as a mom, you want to be that for your kid. But also, I'm sure it would have been nice for this friend to be able to just have a conversation with her friend Milena without having a toddler stuck to her like a barnacle. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being like, hey, this thing that I'm going through right now as a mom is kind of tough. You don't let that impact your whole experience or your whole attitude or approach to parenting, but there's value in finding people who are safe to confide in. And I don't know, like maybe this mom has had a positive experience from that rebuke from Milena. And I think maybe we do all kind of sometimes need that encouragement of this doesn't last forever. Enjoy it while you can. Like appreciate the love and trust that your child has in you and honor that thing. But also, it's okay to vent every now and then.
And with every single situation, because it's going to be so drastically different, especially in the context of talking about husbands. I feel like that one is a little bit trickier. So I would just pray for wisdom. There has been a time where I did just tell someone that the way that they were speaking, I didn't find that what I did instead is, because sometimes I will do this too, and it also totally depends on how close you are with your friend. If this is the first time that you're hanging out with someone, I don't know that it would be the most wise and discerning thing to rebuke them in that moment, unless you felt really called by the Spirit to do that. But this is something that I did with someone that I'm very close with, but she was starting to, and I was like, I can tell that this conversation will not be respectful or honoring to your husband. Can we switch conversations, or can you wait until you're able to do it in an honorable and respectful way? I would love to give you wisdom, but I want to make sure that we're not gossiping. And so even just something like that, I feel like cutting it off before you even notice, before it goes too far or too late, is also really wise. But then again, when you have kids and you're doing play dates and stuff, sometimes it's hard for those things to go. Someone asked, how long will your break be after the new baby?
I'm not going to push back on that. I do think that Milena has a tendency to want to cut like all negative chatter in the way that she presents her video. She's allowed to like judge and say things about other people, but she's also very quick to tell us how she stops other people from being negative. And so I think there's value in addressing that and like acknowledging that. But at the same time, if I'm ignoring that kind of element of the way that she presents herself online, and I'm just focusing purely on a woman talking disrespectfully about her husband or her partner, yeah, I mean, maybe you want to encourage that friend to just be considerate of how they're speaking about their partner. We all have gripes. We all have complaints. We all have things about our partners that bother us, or we like, oh, you drive me nuts because you do X, Y, Z. But I personally think that your partner is your teammate. And so it is super important to make sure that even if you're disagreeing or you're feeling frustrated by them, you're not being disrespectful to them, especially if you are venting to a friend. Again, we all need to vent sometimes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but if you're doing it in a way that you're going to feel embarrassed or ashamed about later, if you would not feel comfortable saying like, this is what I said about you to my friend, to your partner, and telling them the full conversation because you feel like you maybe crossed a line or said something inappropriate, then maybe we do kind of walk it back, or we do say, hey, let's take a second, take a breath. I would love to hear your problem. I would love to, talk to you about it and kind of like just be a safe space to be a sounding board for you. But I do want to make sure that we're respecting your partner in that process. I think that's a valid approach to take.
Generally, I feel like I do like a month 3 to 4 weeks. It totally just depends, but that is like such a crucial time for me. My last postpartum was really, really, really difficult. In those first couple of days, it's like with every baby you have, your afterbirth pains get more and more intense. And with that last one, it was really, 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 really intense. And I am preparing myself for it to be even more.
Wait, moms of multiples, is that true? Because I'm not pregnant right now, but you know, at some point we'd probably like to have a second child. Does it get more intense with every child that you have? My goodness.
Intense. And I feel like because my labor was so quick and so fast, I was like in a lot of like physical body pain afterwards. But it all just ends up being a blurb anyway. So yes, I will probably just end up a month or so is generally what I do. Maybe I'll do less, maybe I'll do more. I don't know. It totally depends on how I feel, but I don't like being online at all postpartum. I find that it's not fruitful, and I would much rather have those moments be with my babies. And what I actually do, because I just generally don't want to be on my phone, but I want to capture those moments, is I got our family a little handheld camcorder. In the past, I've given my kids disposable cameras. They all got disposable cameras. I had a disposable camera. And then my kids also have like mini little cameras, so they can like photograph their point of view of meeting this baby and having this like newborn bubble that I'm like so obsessed with. But the new camcorder thing will be new because I want to document all these things but not feel like I need to have my phone with me. What years have been—
That's actually really cute. That's so fun. I love the idea of giving your kids a disposable camera and letting them go wild with it. That's really, really cute.
the most and least challenging in marriage thus far? That's a great question. I don't really know. Our 7th year of marriage was a year that we really had to—
7-year itch.
I'd say try in marriage. That was the year that we welcomed our 4th and we moved. And that felt like a lot of new things at the same time. And I was really freshly postpartum. And my husband's was also working a ton. And there was so many like different elements that were affecting our life that I would say that year. And it's not because of the marriage, it's because of everything else that's happening in life. And I feel like that's probably generally why most people have stuff that happens in their marriage. It's because of external stuff that's going on. I'd say the least challenging has been every year outside of that year. I don't know. I don't really like sit here and wander and ponder. I feel like one of the things that actually is the least fruitful thing you could do in your marriage is like sit and think about the negatives or sit and dwell in the bad things, because it's really not behooving anyone to do that. And I was just reading a Proverbs. It like completely shook me to my core. But it was saying it is a man.
I love how she says that about everything. It shook me to my core. Sincerely though, I don't think it's bad to reflect on that. I don't know why she's acting like she's above reflecting on which years were difficult and which years were easy. Life is a series of challenges just over and over again, and in between there's a lot of good things. And so like be helpful to this person. Don't say like it doesn't benefit me to think about negative things. Well, you talk about negative things quite a bit, and you talk about how you've done things to like spite your husband and now you don't do them anymore because you've been rebuked. And there was a time when she was like, I'm just not going to do his laundry, then maybe he'll appreciate me. So you guys have had struggles, and no, you shouldn't just be sitting here dwelling on them, thinking about them all the time. But maybe just give some practical advice. Talk about what made your easiest year easier. What did you guys do that maybe you're not doing right now? Or what did you do in that year that you've continued to do as your marriage has gone on longer and longer that you still think is beneficial to you?
Man's glory to overlook an offense or I'm trying to think of what it was. I should have brought my Bible over here, but it like shook me because I was like, oh my gosh, this is—
You have your Bible. You can like you have your phone. You can Google it.
biblical to like not continue to do this. That's really hard. Routines around hosting play dates. Do you still keep naps and routines the same? This is a great question. It totally depends. It totally depends on when the mother and their children can.
She went to the Morgan School of Hair Touching. Look at this. This is nuts.
And what our day is looking like. Generally, I do play dates before nap time or after nap time, especially because nap time is when I work, and so I can't really not do that section or that block of our day. So generally this doesn't end up being a thing, and I will like let moms know, and generally those moms also have nap times they need to go to. So most naps or like most play dates are done before noon and like in the early block or later. Or if it's like a whole outing thing, then yes, we skip naps, but those don't happen nearly as frequently. And if they are, we're not hosting them. We're like out at the zoo or like out at the lake. And so it makes sense to skip. But if we're like at home, generally people are gone before naps or they come right after naps. So that's how I've negated that. In your homeschool tips, I was just thinking about this yesterday because we have started the new school year. We start like ahead because we do school throughout the entire year, and because I'm having a baby later in the summer, it just made sense for us, and this is just what we've always done. But my biggest tip, and this is what I was mentally telling myself yesterday, it's like treat each day like that day and celebrate each day that you get it done, because it's so easy to get consumed by what the whole year is supposed to look like and all that needs to be done in the whole year that it can be so overwhelming to see what you need to tackle and accomplish for each child, that I find taking it day by day and celebrating each day that you are able to complete another day of homeschool is a really big deal. Like yesterday I was telling myself, like, we did it for another day. Like, we did it. Today we did another day of homeschool. And I find that that has been so helpful, especially if you're homeschooling multiple children, because we're just about to start homeschooling our toddler. And so it's going to add 3 people into the mix, but it's also exciting. And I find if you get overwhelmed by the idea or thought of having like all of this to deal with, taking it day by day, asking the Lord for wisdom and discernment is so helpful. There was a season where I was asking the Lord, we had one child who was struggling with something, and I remember that night I had a dream, and the Lord just showed me that child being able to do this thing so well and fully and completely and like above anything I had ever expected them to be able to do. And it just brought me so much ease, because I think because like I'm a first-time generational in our generation to homeschool, I want to always do really well and always excel and always be ahead and this and that, because not that I feel like I need to prove myself, but it's just so exciting to us and our kids just really enjoy it. But there are some things that are going to be harder or that we're gonna have to work on longer, and that's like the whole reason why we do it. But it felt like a really sweet little kiss from the Lord to have this dream, because it brought me so much ease to know like, okay, they are going to figure this out. Like, we don't have to keep belaboring this. It's just gonna take a little bit longer, and we just need grace in this area, and we're gonna try different techniques, and we're gonna try this, and we're gonna try that. So that was really sweet. So I think just thinking of it like that too, of the whole know your reasons for homeschooling, because that will make it a lot easier when you go to make decisions and figure things out. What are some...
That's fair. I'm not anti-homeschool. I was homeschooled for a portion of my elementary school experience, and I really liked it. I had a great time. So I definitely not like anti-homeschool. If you want to do it and you have the capability to do it in a way that is beneficial for your child, I say go for it. If you're using it as a way to control your children, to indoctrinate them, to prevent them from being part of the quote-unquote world, I think that's kind of an issue. If you're doing it because you want to deny your children outside influence, I think that's also an issue. As a parent, yes, you need to be the one responsible for doing what you can to keep your child safe, but not letting them have like secular influence, I think only harms them. So, when we have people who are public figures and influencers homeschooling their kids, I don't think it's inherently bad, but I do think it's important to like be honest with yourself and say, hey, I can do this, or hey, I can't. I'm like really overwhelmed. I'm in over my head, XYZ. So I know Milena went to college. Did she go to college for elementary education? Because I kind of feel like she did. I remember watching an older video of hers where she talked about how like excited she was to have kids and all of her hopes and dreams for what life with their children would look like. And so I think it's perfectly plausible that she has the capability to homeschool her kids in a way that is beneficial for them. I just hope that Michigan has some kind of like standardized, not testing, but requirements that are needed to be met, and not just in a way where parents can kind of fudge the system and say, yeah, we did that. Yeah, we met that requirement, or we went over this. I hope that whoever's in charge of this, I don't know. I've never homeschooled anybody before, but like the Board of Education is actually keeping an eye on these kids in Michigan who are being homeschooled to ensure that they're not falling behind their peers. Okay, so I don't know if she graduated, but if you go to Milena's website under her like welcome page, it says, from a professional perspective, I originally went to college to study early childhood development, but my plans drastically changed when God opened the door for my YouTube channel to grow. So I don't know if she graduated or if she, like how many years of college she did actually complete, but she did at least have an interest in early childhood development and presumably education.
Boundaries you have in place for your phone usage. This is a great question. So I do blocks. So first thing in the morning, like right now, I am setting up myself for the day. So depending on what I have for work, I need to get things over to my assistant in order for her to be able to help me best. And so mornings, I'd say for probably like the first, like in the midst of me doing like chicken chores and my workout and my Bible time, and sometimes
I wonder how many religious homeschooled moms have their own assistants.
filming, that is when I spend like at least like 30 minutes just kind of chunking things out and getting things over so she could best help me that day. And then my phone is gone and put away until 1. And then I get my phone out, usually like yesterday I didn't get my phone back out until like 3 because of the way that naps were going and we had company over, and it just depends. But I try to block my phone usage because my phone usage is highly attached to my work schedule too. So I like to do it in blocks.
Sure.
And most people that would need to contact me know that. I do put my phone on rings, so like if I need to make a call or something, people can access me. Like yesterday, I needed to have my phone on me in the morning because I had a midwife appointment, so I did keep it closer, and I'm glad I did because she ended up pushing it back. So I have a spot that I keep it in the kitchen, and so it's like there, so I could possibly hear it, but if I'm outside, I probably won't. But generally, people just know I'm not very accessible. I feel like my family generally gets irritated because I cannot be accessible at all times. And my thing with that is no one should be accessible at all times. Like, it's such a weird new thing that I don't find that is helpful. And then depending on how the day is going, sometimes in the evening before I start like dinner and things, I will have some work stuff to do. It just depends. But I have found that like doing blocks like this is so helpful. Or else it's so easy to like just pick it up out of habit, or so I just don't like that. I try to spend very minimal time on my phone, and when I'm on it, I feel like I'm very disciplined to like do exactly what I need to do on it and then wait. And then once my kids go to bed, and this has been something that changed because when I was pregnant and I was in my first trimester, I put my phone away really early, like really, really early. And because of like the time and the way that the sun was setting and stuff, I just tried not to have any blue light on my face at all. But now once my kids do go to bed, I use like a little sliver of that time to get back to my friends and like text people back. So generally if I'm texting someone back, it's like in the evening. And so yeah, I kind of just bounce around. I feel like figuring that out is a really good idea for mothers.
Do we think that that's the truth? I will say, though, that I do agree with Milena. I don't think we are meant to be accessible and available 24/7. I think it's really important to draw your own boundaries regarding cell phone usage and how frequently you are responding to text messages, and like not putting pressure on yourself to get back to everybody right away. I'm very grateful that my friends know I might text you back in 30 seconds. I might text you back in 3 business days, but I love you the same either way. And I think that like that works for me. I don't want to be someone who is just constantly tied to my phone and texting people and going back and forth. I want to be present in my reality that I am physically currently in. And so I'm totally with her on having those boundaries and setting your phone away so you can enjoy the time with your kids. I think that that's great. I also think it's a little bit ironic for her to say that she doesn't really use her phone that much and she's not on it, and she'll maybe use a sliver of time to talk to her friends. And other than that, she just chunks out some time in the morning to get things done and do things for her job, because her job is social media. And she wants people to consume her content while also essentially saying that she is above consuming content, right? Like, you have an app, like a Bible app for kids, but you think it's important for you to be on your phone as minimally as possible. How are we reconciling that?
Do you have a certain amount of kids you're planning for, or are you letting God work? I love this question, and my husband and I were just having a conversation about this. I was like just weeping over this because I'm just so grateful and thankful for my fertility and like how I've been able to conceive so easily, and that we have such beautiful children, and 4 and Lord willing 5. Like, it is just not something that I ever take lightly or something that I see as like expected, or like, I don't know, I am just so thankful like that. And that is such an understatement too. We don't necessarily have a certain amount. We have a pretty strong conviction in this area, but I choose to not publicly share that conviction because every family dynamic is so different and every situation is so different, and the Bible is not as specific and clear cut in this area. So I do think there is room for wisdom and discernment for each family. And so I generally just don't share that with the public. And so I don't really have this answer, but I am just so thankful for the children that we have. And if the Lord blesses us with more, we would be so delighted in that. How have you?
You know what? Heck yeah. I have no pushback on this. It sounds to me like they are not preventing. Like, if they get pregnant, they get pregnant, and they're going to be happy with that, and that'll be great. And at this point, I'm thinking they're going to have 5 kids. 5 is a lot. I think that's a good number. I'm not sure if she would be okay going into like Carissa Collins territory, having that many children. I think it's great that she said everyone's situation is different. I'm not going to say what we personally do because I think everyone's different. There's no clear direction in the Bible. And so everyone needs to kind of make that decision for themselves. I think that that's a really great answer. And I appreciate that that's her stance, because you can say, well, this is what I want for me, and we have the resources to do this responsibly. But I also think at a certain point, you have so many kids that even if you had all the money in the world, it's irresponsible to have children that you cannot, not that you can't care for, but like children that you cannot have personal relationships with. And I think that's where Carissa Collins is at. You have so many kids that you are exhausted, your resources are stretched thin, you're relying on the older children to help raise the younger ones, and I just don't think that's fair. There's only so many hours in a day. You can't possibly be giving your children the attention that they deserve as your kids. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody in theory saying like, we are not using birth control, we are just kind of letting nature take course, and if this is what's in God's plan for our family and for our lives, let's go for it. But I think there needs to be kind of the flip side of that coin of, let's also make sure that we are doing right by the kids that we have now and not just saying we're open to as many kids as biologically we can have.
Approached discipline, praying on how to approach this. This is a really great question, and this is one of the things that I'm currently working on. My newest projects that I am just so over the moon and excited about. It's not all going to be about discipline, but this will be one of the sections on it, because I get this question so frequently, and this question and many other questions that will be related to this topic and what I am working on. But I'm saving it for that, because this is not just like an answer that you can answer in a Q&A. It is such a multifaceted and requires so much diligence and prayer, like she's mentioning. So I will be sharing that really soon. Number one tip in getting everything done. I only have one child and admire you. I don't get everything done. There's different seasons where there are different priorities and different things that are on my list of like non-negotiables / what I need to do that day. And I find that as a mother, having those written down is super important. I'll link a video I did a couple weeks ago talking about ways I was making homemaking harder than it needed to be. And that, I feel like that video really helps kind of accumulate everything together. But there's certainly, I am not doing everything. And I think most moms really need to get off social media, because it makes it seem like that, but that's just not the reality.
But you make social media content. I mean, I'm totally with you on, I don't get everything done. There are different seasons for different things. If you have a couple of like big rock items that you need to make sure you can cross off your list, write them down, make sure you get those things done. Other than that, we're just kind of doing our best. But you make content for social media. You are a social media influencer. What do you mean moms need to get off social media?
Of what is happening. But I do think there are certain ways that just come with doing it for so long, that come with having so many children. It's just, you gain wisdom and insight, and I feel like it just becomes your reality. And that is like the hugest thing, is that with the more kids we've had, this has been our reality for so long that we don't remember life before kids or life without multiple kids. And so when we go on a road trip to celebrate our 8-year anniversary, and within 15 minutes of us being on the road, our baby has a blowout and there's poop literally everywhere, we are not surprised. We're not like, oh, our road trip is ruined. We are supposed to be there. We're gonna be late now, and like this and that. Like, we don't go there. And so that alone, I think, helps so much of like knowing the reality of your season. Like, when this baby comes, my reality, I know, will be that I will not be on top of laundry like I usually am. And I know that I'm not going to be sleeping as much as I usually am. Like, I can expect to have much slower days. I think we really need to discern the season that we're in and the realities that come with that season, because when we put something into a box that like, it's a literal triangle, and we're trying to put a box in there and we're like so frustrated, it's like, that is not even the correct shape that's supposed to be in there. So once we reshape and remold, then we can fit in there, and then you'll be so much happier and have so much more space and not feel crammed and tight and feel like it doesn't fit because it wasn't fitting, it wasn't working. I found that alone has made things just so different. So I would suggest this mother write down her non-negotiables and watch that video that I did last week, because I feel like there's a lot of other little things in there too that is helpful to kind of reshift and feel like, okay, why do you feel like you're not doing everything, or what do you think that everything needs to be that is not? Like, how old is your child? That makes a big difference. Like, there's just so many little factors that play into this idea of like getting things done, because it's so different when you have so many littles under the age of 6 versus having so many, but they're like, the oldest is like 15 or 16 and they're more spread out, or like every family dynamic and situation is just so different. So pray for wisdom in your season and pray for the Lord to help guide your days, because this is such a big one. Okay.
Initial gripe aside, I agree with what she just said here, and I'm glad she said it.
Last one is, when do you have time? When do you have time for sex when you have kids? Need some tips. I think if you see sex as a non-negotiable, that changes things. If you view it like you need to eat and you need to drink, that totally changes things. The minute you start seeing it as something that's like an option, or that's something that like, if all the circumstances and if all of these things are perfectly aligned, then we will do it, especially after you have kids, you're never going to do it. And we view sex as one of the most beautiful things in our covenant marriage before the Lord, as something that is a gift, as something that He has given us as a blessing, as something that is so beautiful and so intimate and so intentional. And so because that's how we view this thing, this gift, that is what overflows out. But if you view it as like this chore, as this like thing you have to do, as something that you just don't want to do, that really changes it. So I would say,
okay, but what leads women generally into viewing intimacy as a chore? This is not the case for everyone, but let's just think like big picture here. I think a lot of times in heterosexual marriages, especially where there are kids, women are doing a lot of invisible labor. Women are doing a lot of taking on the mental load of running the household. And if these women are working or stay-at-home parents, it's still a lot. Like, being home with your child, being responsible for them all day long, that's a lot. And sometimes you just need a break. And if you are working all day long and then coming home and immediately running into like being mom mode, clocking in for that, that is also a lot. And sometimes you just need a break. And regardless of the breaks, I'm just saying, like, heterosexual relationships, men, send your wife out, send her to go get her nails done and get a coffee, and don't bother her the entire time she's gone. Like, please, for the love of God. A lot of women feel bad taking that time for themselves, so make it happen for her. But regardless of that, again, like, women are taking on a lot. They just do. When it comes to parenting and taking care of the home and all of the other responsibilities, and like trying to make sure that they are also paying attention to their relationship, women generally take on a lot of the I don't want to say load, but back to the point. I am generalizing here, but women tend to do a lot. That is not discounting the things that men do and the contributions they make to their own households, but if you're a woman, think about yourself, think about the women you know and the relationships that you are in and the relationships that they are in, and who is buying the birthday presents, planning the birthday party, thinking about the holiday plans, buying the soap because they notice that you're running low, making sure there's toothpaste, who's making the grocery list, who is doing those things more frequently, who is the one taking on the bulk of the responsibility for not only taking care of the family and the marriage and the home, but just taking on pretty much everything for everyone. Women. And it's so easy, I think, for men to dismiss this and be like, well, just don't do it then. Why are you complaining? Just don't do it. If you don't want to do that thing, don't do it. Okay, but if they don't do it, who's going to? What if we saw an equitable division of labor as a non-negotiable in a relationship? What if we saw treating your spouse or your partner with kindness and respect as a non-negotiable? What if you made having dinner together, phone free, 2 nights a week, non-negotiable? Like, what if you made your relationship so that your non-negotiables allowed your intimacy, your friendship, your relationship in general to flourish? Because what's the point of saying, like, well, sex is non-negotiable if you're making it a non-negotiable because you don't just generally want to have sex with your partner because other needs are not being fulfilled? Why are we focusing on the sex? Intimacy is so much more than sex. And especially as like long-term partners, there are so many things that are 1,000 times more important than that physical relationship is. Especially if you want to have a good long-term relationship with your partner and you truly want it to be a partnership. Physical relations are just a portion of this whole thing. And that's not to say that sex isn't important. I do think it's very important to long-term romantic relationships, but I think it's not right to like put a blanket statement on everybody. Like she said with like not getting things done or the homeschooling or their thoughts on family planning. Everyone's different. Everyone's lives are different. Everyone's circumstances are different. Everyone's health history is different. Everyone's sex drive is different. Everyone's medical needs are different. Like timing. Sometimes you're just really short on time. And so that is not your priority. And I think it's important to remember that not every answer is right for everyone. And this is an area where obviously people have called MILENA out, and she did address it and said like she put her own preconceived notions on the person asking this question. But I don't understand why she's not approaching this question with the same mindset that she did with the others of everyone's situation is unique and different. But let's hear the rest of her answer.
If you and your husband both have this view of what intimacy and sex is, then you preserve it and you keep it and you admire it. And then you work for it and work to have time for it, because it's easy to say like, now that we have kids, like we just don't have time. I'm too tired. I do this and that. And yes, there are certain seasons where like you physically, like when you're postpartum, you cannot, like you can't. And so you have to discern the season that you're in, but then also know that things are going to change. It's not going to be how things always were. You're not going to have everything perfectly aligned, and we really have to be willing to cater and change to the season that we're in. So something that may have worked last season now suddenly doesn't. But just knowing that it's not, seeing it as like a non-negotiable, like this is just something that we do together and we make time to do it, will be so helpful. And I would set yourself up too, if you're like trying to get back into the swing of things, to set it up in a way where it's like you don't let more than 48 hours go past without being intimate. And then that way you are setting, because if you are only being intimate once a week, that is not enough. Like, that is not enough. And I know people are gonna argue and say like, well, that works for our marriage, and it's like, no, if you look at a 30-day week and you are only doing that 4 times in those 30 days, you are failing very, very poorly. Look how low of a number that is.
Oh. You know, I unpaused after my soapbox rant, and she was like, you gotta cater to the season you're in. And I thought, maybe I should have just let her speak. Maybe I was being too quick to judgment. And then I just let her talk and talk and talk, and now she wants to hold up a calculator showing 13% on it. and say you're failing if you only have sex once a week. You're failing? Milena, are you joking me? I don't even know what to say right now. This is absurd. This is literally absurd for Milena to flippantly tell you that you are failing as a wife if you are only having sex once a week. Okay. I can't even think of like a coherent way to address this because everyone's situation is different. If you're in a good, easy relationship, you don't have a lot of stressors, you have a decent amount of free time, and you and your partner are in a good place, and you say like, hey, let's have sex every 48 hours, let's have sex every 2 to 3 days, and like that's what works for you, go for it. Amazing. Enjoy. Have fun. If you are in a place where intimacy isn't coming easily to you, but you both respect and care for each other, and you want to set that goal of sex every 48 hours, and you're doing it in a way that feels good to you, amazing. Go for it. That is not advice for everyone. That is I just cannot believe that she literally just said that. Some people are in marriages where they're being treated like an object. Some people are in marriages where they're being subjugated and not respected, and like telling a woman in that scenario, well, you still need to have sex every 48 hours with your husband, is just degrading that woman further. It is making her feel worse and telling her that she's failing if she's not doing that when she's already having a tough time. And why would she want to be intimate with somebody who's not treating her well? And we can go to like the theological debate of wives submit to your husbands, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. That's about mutual submission, which so many Christian influencers love to leave out. I have to like pull myself in because I just started like 6 different rabbit trails thinking about different arguments that a Christian person would bring back to me when I'm pushing back on this. But I can't have this nonsense. I cannot have this nonsensical debate with myself and a theoretical Christian pushing back at me. That was a very cold and cruel answer, Milena. I'm glad you walked it back. I'm glad that you apologized. I'm very upset. I'm very upset by what she just said. So we just got to move on.
And I know, I highly doubt there's any husband that is okay with a score that low in this area. And so again, the way that you're viewing it,
you're projecting your own relationship insecurities onto other couples. Just straight up. And that's such a rude way to answer somebody who's asking this question of like, I want to be intimate with my husband, but I'm having a tough time after having a kid. How do you find the time? You're being rude to them.
The way that you're seeing this gift and the sacredness will highly determine the frequencies and how you make time for it. And so just know that it's probably going to not be as conducive. It's probably going to be really early in the morning or really late at night or in the middle of the day during a lunch break or at random times. And you're going to have to say no to some other things to say yes to this thing. But again, if the way that you view this beautiful little package and gift that the Lord has given you will highly influence the way that you view going about acting on this thing too. So,
well, I'm glad you're so passionate about Jordan's little package, but what you do in your marriage is not what's right for everyone else. And I'm so upset that I'm just like blanking out right now. Okay, I gotta lock in for the last minute 41 of this.
I'd be praying for a softened heart in this area of how you view this, because it's just such a beautiful thing. And I wish more people saw like how much of a gift it is and how unifying and how much the Lord delights when we delight in this area, and how much the enemy wants us to not, and how much the enemy wants us to be like, no, this needs to be like this and like this. And that just harbors.
The Lord does not delight in you having sex with your spouse every 48 hours. The Lord delights in strong, Christ-centered marriages. And there is so much more that goes into having a strong Christ-centered marriage than just sex. Sex is part of it. Sex is a very important part of relationships. Absolutely. Like long-term romantic relationships require physical intimacy, I think, to just make you feel close to that person, to bring you together, to have fun together, to enjoy each other. Like, that's a really important part of your relationship. It's not everything though, and it doesn't make a strong relationship. If your relationship is on the rocks, if you're loose, if you're not loose, sorry, if you are if you're distant, if you are not like locked in together, if you're not working together as teammates, having sex isn't going to make that better. If you're already having a problem, just being physically intimate with each other doesn't make that problem go away. Again, it's important. It's important to understand each other's needs and to be open and to be honest and talk to each other about what each of you needs and what you're comfortable with and what you would like your physical intimacy to look like and how frequently you want it to happen. Those conversations, super important. Have them. Love that. Be open, be honest. Amazing. But if you don't trust each other, if you don't respect each other, if you tune each other out when you're trying to talk about emotional problems, if you're being dishonest in how you're spending money, if you're not following the budget, like whatever it may be, if you are having a serious problem in your relationship that needs to be fixed, that you need to get to the root of, having sex doesn't fix it. The Lord does not delight in you guys going at it like bunny rabbits. The Lord delights in, again, strong, Christ-centered marriages. And this is just my belief. I'm not saying that anybody else has to live like that. But Milena and I are both Christian. And so for her to say that that's what the Lord delights in, is you guys having sex a ton. It's like, no. That just doesn't, it's nonsense, Milena.
So much insecurity and resentment, and love truly covers like a multitude of sins. And like when you are physically loving on each other, it is so unifying in both the flesh and in the spiritual and like in so many different ways. The Lord has taught me so much about this, and I think it's so beautiful, and I think it's such a gift, and I think it needs to be prioritized even more so when you have kids. Even something as simple as making out during the day. I feel like that is something that is so helpful, is to make sure you're making out during the day. Make sure you're giving each other hugs. Like, make sure you're being physical with each other. Not to say that you're gonna like sweep all your arguments under the rug, because I feel like that's such a silly accusation or argument to make. It's like, no, we're just being intentional, being physical with each other. And we find that like fighting over laundry is not even something worth fighting over. It's not that we're not talking about our problem. It's just that our problems.
But you've brought it up multiple times, not in this video, just in videos in general, about how laundry is a point of contention in your relationship.
Simply just go away, because we realize how silly and how much of a problem it really wasn't even to begin with. So this is a long Q&A. I apologize for that. I hope this video blesses you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Okay, bye. Well, as previously stated, I'm upset. I did not like that. I felt like throughout the whole video, I completely forgot that there was that controversial answer in there, because I'm like, yeah, I agree. Oh, I disagree. Oh, here's where I'm going to push back. We're like plugging along. I totally forgot that like a controversial answer was going to be coming up. I was just blissfully ignorant of just how upset I was going to get at the end of that video. Why would you close that? Well, because she didn't think there's anything wrong. I was going to say, why would you close out a video on something like that? Well, because to her, it's not a problem. That's what they do. Do you feel like good about that, Milena? Is that something that you truly do feel good about and you stand by, or are you just engaging in cognitive dissonance? Either way, I'm good. I'm done. I understand why people were upset, and I am glad that she apologized and walked it back, but I think that having that video up does more harm than good. I think that she should delete this video, and I think that she should come back and make a video about it, because not everybody's going to read the comments. I think a lot of people do read the comments, and maybe if they were feeling a certain way about it, they would come to like check and see if anybody else was feeling the same way. And so they could see her apology, but anybody can write an apology. I want to see MILENA talk about it. I want to see her say, I really messed up. I was cavalier. I was projecting XYZ, whatever, and genuinely address this in a meaningful way. But I don't think she will. And I'm done. I gotta go. Yeah, we're done here. Let me know your thoughts. Any feelings? Complaints, concerns, anything you want to share with me, feel free to share it in the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the comment section for this particular episode if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify. And while you are doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, that would be incredible. Or if you would leave the podcast a rating or a review, that would be amazing too. If you have done any of those things already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you. And I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.